Good afternoon, everyone. We'll give it a couple moments before we get started here today. As you folks are joining, if you could write into the chat where you are joining from, we'd love to know where everybody's from. So we're going to get started in about 1 minute. As you're joining, please write into the chat where you're joining from. Maryland, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, Minnesota, Indiana, New Jersey. Awesome, all over the place. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Happy November, everyone. Today is November 1st. Hopefully you're all enjoying maybe the slightly cooler weather outside. I know there have been a couple storm events across the country already. So today we are going to talk about how SaltWatch is changing, and we're going to introduce you all to the Clean Water Hub, especially if you haven't used the Clean Water Hub before, what that looks like. And again, my name is Abby Heilman, and I am the SaltWatch coordinator here at the Isaac Walton League of America. So we'll do a really brief background. I won't get into too much information about the SaltWatch program here today, just because we're focused a lot on the Clean Water Hub itself. So a really quick background, some goals that we have of SaltWatch. We would like to raise awareness in the general public about the connection between salt and stream health, to identify chloride hotspots in freshwater, and to advocate for smarter salt application of road salt by sharing some of those results with private landowners and then also local and state agencies. If anyone has any questions during the webinar today, please write those in the chat or in the Q&A, ideally the Q&A, and we'll answer them as we go or definitely at the end if we have time. There are a number of different impacts that road salt has on the environment and then also on us as humans as well. Number of wildlife impacts, infrastructure impacts. Last year, for instance, there's a Honda CR-V recall. Apart from the Honda CR-Vs, the vehicles rusted out due to road salt corrosion. And there are some drinking water impacts as well. As the road salt is being applied, a lot of times after a snow event or a thaw, that road salt's washing into our local waterways and ending up in our drinking water, since most wastewater treatment facilities do not have the infrastructure, the funding to actually remove that salt from the water. So it's ending up in our drinking water as a result too. And as Sam put in the chat, more of that background information can be found at www.saltwatch.org. And it really takes just a little bit of salt to do permanent harm. So about a teaspoon of salt permanently pollutes 5 gallons of water. It's really impossible to remove it once it enters the environment. I wanted to give some background stats. This is updated as of yesterday. So since the beginning of the program in 2018, we've had over 15,000 data submissions. I'll show a couple of maps here. So just to go over what the information on the map is showing you, the larger the dots on the map, the more data submissions we've had from those regions. And then the dots are color-coded based on the concentration of chloride that we're receiving from those results. So excellent samples are sort of below the range that we can register on our test strips. So very little chloride in the waterways. Good samples are between 30 to 100 parts per million. It's been said that at 100 parts per million, chloride is considered to be naturally occurring within the environment, although we know that in many areas, that number is significantly lower. Some areas, it could be as low as 3 parts per million too. And in Maryland, 50 parts per million is really when things start to get tricky for aquatic life. And then samples between 100 and 230 parts per million are poor. 230 parts per million is when chloride levels in waterways become toxic to a lot of aquatic life. So this is our data from since the inception of the program, since the program began in 2018 until today. Just to show you on the map, pay attention to the colors as they're sort of changing between this map and the next map that I'll show you. This winter from 2021 to 2022, there is a lot of storms throughout the winter time. And so lots of toxic samples came back. And then last winter, we were expecting there to be a lot less toxic samples, which there were, and I'll switch to that map. But there is still a number of toxic samples that were still being received, even though a lot of places throughout the country, there is still less road salt that was being applied at this time. So still quite a few toxic results and a similar number of data submissions for both years. And then this current year, since July, the beginning of July, we've had 689 data points already submitted, and we'd like to see that number increase. So if you have not yet requested your kit from us, please go to saltwatch.org and request that kit, fill out the SaltWatch pledge and request that kit, and we'll go ahead and send that to you. And you'll get updated data submission instructions as well. None of this would be possible without our partners. We're up to 46 official SaltWatch partners and over 400 participating organizations across the United States. So we're going to talk today about the Clean Water Hub. Previously for SaltWatch, we had been using Water Reporter. Water Reporter will no longer be available in the coming months. I think sometime around January, they'll actually start to shut down that feed. So we've made the switch over to the Clean Water Hub, which is our own database. It's a national water quality database, publicly accessible, and we've created it with usability in mind, trying to make all of that data really easy to access, understand, and share. And we have a number of color-coded interactive maps as well. The Clean Water Hub, it compiles a number of data programs that we already have. So Save Our Streams, or SOS, it combines that chemical data that a lot of folks capture: dissolved oxygen, phosphate, nitrate, temperature, pH, chloride, transparency. SOS Biological, which is benthic monitoring, so monitoring macroinvertebrates. VASOS, which is a little bit more intensive benthic monitoring. Creek Critters, which is an app that is created by Nature Forward, formerly Audubon Naturalist Society, and us. And that's sort of a intro benthic monitoring program that you can actually get started with yourself at home. It's a free app. And then also SaltWatch and Nitrate Watch data are all compiled into the Clean Water Hub. As of yesterday, there have been over 15,000 sort of sample site locations that have been submitted, over 54,000 samples, over 200 organizations, and over 1,300 members are using the Clean Water Hub. If you have any questions about using the Clean Water Hub, we'll go over how to submit your data today. But if you do have any questions, at the very top right of the screen, there is a help button. And in that help tab, there's a number of users guides, frequently asked questions, fact sheet templates. But if you have other questions that maybe aren't answered there, need more help, please feel free to email me, and my contact information will be at the end of this presentation. And data use. So government agencies can use the Clean Water Hub. The data can be shared with them. Our own team uses the data for an annual report and any outreach to our monitors or volunteers of what's happening. And then also you yourself as clean water advocates can use the data that is publicly accessible on the Clean Water Hub to contact local representatives and educate community members as well. So data access. There are a number of interactive maps here on the Clean Water Hub. This map that's being shown here with the purple and gray dots is our community map. So any of the current data that has more recently been put into the hub is purple, and then any data that is over a year old that maybe hasn't been updated recently is in gray. And you can click on some of those points and see what's happening across the country. There's also a SaltWatch map specifically with data across the country, and you can toggle the dates at the top to see, or filter by year to see specific timeframes throughout the year that you might be interested in. And of course, those dots are color-coded, similar to the maps that I showed you earlier. And then for those of you who might be familiar with our Nitrate Watch program, or maybe you aren't familiar, we launched a program similar to SaltWatch, but it's tracking nitrate pollution across the country. We launched that last February. So similar concept to SaltWatch, interactive map and showing different thresholds for nitrate results. You can export the data from the Clean Water Hub. You can view sort of screenshot graphs that are automatically come up from the different parameters that we have there in the Clean Water Hub. So you can actually view your SaltWatch results over time, which is really awesome. And if you're a teacher, you can easily screenshot that and use that for your classes or just within your community as well. You can view all of the site data. So when you go in to create a SaltWatch reading, you create a sample site location first, and we'll go over that. And then you can view any data that's been submitted within that site. And you can click on those data points individually to view what exactly was submitted on those days. So those individual readings. And then for organizations that allow public access to downloads, you can actually download those sites and readings and see what's happening. And so those downloads download as an Excel spreadsheet where you can view all of the site information, any chemical data that has been submitted, and then if there's any biological data that's also been submitted, you can view that there too. And our goal with this is really to sort of do data to action. So seeing all of that data that has been submitted, you can then use that data, outreach to your local government officials, or maybe a local EAC, anything like that, and turn that data into an advocacy action. So sort of going back to the basics, SaltWatch kits. For those of you who are new to us, you can request a free SaltWatch kit to be mailed to your address. We send it in a standard business envelope, and each SaltWatch kit contains 4 chloride test strips, sample testing instructions, a conversion chart, which we'll go over today, and then also data upload instructions. And of course, those instructions that we're sending now no longer have Water Reporter data or instructions for Water Reporter, but have instructions for uploading to the Clean Water Hub, which is where all of that data will be going. When to monitor, ideally, if you can monitor once a month throughout the year, that would be the most ideal time, but we recognize that not everybody has that availability to be able to monitor throughout the year. So if you can monitor at all, please monitor during the winter time. So before winter weather to get a baseline reading, after the first storm, when salt has been applied to the roadways, after it's safe to go out and get to your sample site location, of course, after the first thaw or rainstorm of the winter, and then after the next rain event. But again, ideally monitor once a month, and then if you can catch some of these other times throughout the year too, that would be great. We do see sort of spikes within the chloride levels typically after some of these events, but we're also seeing spikes in the summertime and the fall during drought events too, when the water levels are lower and there's not enough water or not as much water to dilute the chloride that might be in the groundwater or in the soil surrounding the waterways. So how to take a sample, all you need is your test strips that we've sent you, a small jar or cup, ideally glass or plastic. Sometimes the paper cups tend to slough off some materials a little bit. So some sort of jar, maybe a little juice jar or something. All you have to do is add water and sort of rinse and repeat 3 times. So fill up your cup, empty it out, fill up your cup, empty it out, fill up your cup, empty it out, and maybe fill it up just a little bit to about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of water at the bottom. The reason why we do this is if you sampled maybe multiple locations already that day, or maybe there was something else in that cup ahead of time. Ideally, it would be washed before you went out to the streams, but just to make sure that there's no residual chloride from any other tests that might have been done. And then insert your strip. It's called a Quantab strip. Insert that strip. Make sure the word Quantab is at the top of the cup and it's not touching the waterway. And then you wait about 3 minutes. And what you're waiting for is for the top, that horizontal line at the top of that Quantab strip to change from sort of that orange color that you're seeing there on the left to sort of a blackish, bluish purple color. So once that horizontal line is completely sort of blue-black, then that strip is ready to be read. So you can put that onto the conversion chart that you have received with your test strips. Or if you're using a bottle, there's a conversion chart like this on those bottles as well. And then you're ready to read what those Quantab reading is showing you. So again, looking on that test strip, you're going to look and see where the top of that peak falls. If the peak is between lines, use the lower line. We don't want to input things that are maybe a higher chloride reading than what it actually is. So again, if it's between lines, use the lower line. All of these lines are in 2s. So for this example, this Quantab strip is reading 4. So a Quantab reading of 4. And then what you're going to do, and since this is a little bit different than what we've been doing in Water Reporter, where you just take a picture, you don't have to do this for the hub, but you do need these numbers that we're getting here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go look at what the Quantab units are. So we said that that's 4. So we go down. 4 is our Quantab unit. And then we're going to go over, and 157 then is our parts per million chloride, and that's milligrams per liter. So those are 2 really important numbers that you need here on from your test strip reading. And I did get a question in the Q&A. All of the data that has been reported on Water Reporter has already been transferred to the Clean Water Hub. And that's something that we have been porting over sort of as Water Reporter submissions have arrived. But we do want to transition over to just using the Clean Water Hub, especially because Water Reporter will be going away. On that note too, the Clean Water Hub is not an app. You can use it on your phone or on your desktop computer through your browser. It works in either case. So again, reading that test strip, follow the peak of that sort of yellow-white line that's going up when your test strip is ready to be read. Find out what those Quantab units are. If it's between lines, use the lower line. And then make a note of what that Quantab reading is, and then also make a note of what the parts per million chloride are for that. So for this one, again, 4 Quantab units and 157 parts per million chloride. This is what our new testing instructions or submission instructions look like, and you can find this on our webpage under the frequently asked questions page. It's on there. So to submit your data, so you've already done your test, ready to submit your data, you go to www.cleanwaterhub.com/saltwatch. And it will bring up this page right here, which will allow you to sign up for the Clean Water Hub. Or if you already have an account, you can log into that account from this link. Some things for this. One, if you already have a Water Reporter account, you do have to make a new account for the Clean Water Hub. Your Water Reporter account information will not transfer over automatically. So you can use the same username or password if you'd like, but you do have to make that account on the Clean Water Hub. And then also, if you are associated with an organization, so for instance, I'm a volunteer for the Muddy Branch Alliance or Loudon Wildlife Conservancy or Pennypack, something like that. Feel free to type in what that organization name is here, and you'll automatically then be associated with that organization, and you can post your sample sites to that organization. So that data automatically goes to them. And you can type in multiple organizations that you'd like to be connected with as well during this sign up. If you don't do that during the sign up, there are ways to do that after the fact as well. Okay, once you're logged in or have created an account, it'll take you to this page where SaltWatch is selected. You want to click Create SaltWatch Reading. And it will bring up this page, SaltWatch Form. So if you have previously made an account and have been submitting data, you'll have sort of a drop-down menu, which will allow you to click on sites that you have previously made, or you can go ahead and create a new site. And so this is the sample site location that you're creating while submitting your SaltWatch data. So I'm going to go ahead and click to create a new site, and it'll bring up a form that looks like this. It will ask for a site name. Please don't write in like Abby's Sink. Be a little bit more specific about that, or like Abby's testing site. Use a water source. So Muddy Branch Run near such and such bridge, or 30 feet from such and such bridge. Try to be as specific as possible because there's thousands of users on the Clean Water Hub. And so we want to make sure that your site has a sort of very solid name and it's not just Abby's Creek. Be a little bit more specific about that. If the water source does have a name, so like the Clarion River, you can write in the name of the water source there. I'll go over what types of water sources we have. There's a drop-down menu for that. And then if you wanted to describe that site at all, so maybe 30 feet off of the bridge down this path is where I'm sampling, something like that. And then you can type in an organization name here as well, and that site will automatically be associated with that organization. And if you would like to add a photo of your site, you can do that here as well. So this is exactly where I'm taking that sample, is this site right here. The options for water source, is it a private groundwater well, public drinking water system, small stream or creek, river, lake, pond, wetland, drainage outlet, or other? If you put in other, please write in your site description what that is. Then we have that information. And then as you scroll down, this is when you create your SaltWatch reading. So the top of the page will be that sample site information, which you won't have to do again unless you're sampling a new site later. And then you write in your reading information. So what is the city? What is the state? If you know the latitude and longitude, you can write that in. If you don't, you can zoom into the map or write in an approximate address in the search bar, click add location mode on, and that will allow you to put a pin there on the map for that sample site. And then you're inputting your data for that SaltWatch reading that you just took. So what is the survey date? What is the most recent precipitation? I'll show you that drop down here in a moment. You do need to input that Quantab unit reading that we went over a little bit ago, the chloride reading that we went over, and then also the expiration date and the lot number. And I think I have this blown up on another screen, but the expiration date and the lot number can be found on your conversion chart. So whether you get that conversion chart from us in the mail, or maybe it's on a bottle, please input that information because the kits, they do expire. And each conversion chart is unique to the strips that they come with as well. So please always use the conversion charts that come with your test strips. And then if there's any comments that you have on that specific day, that you went out to test. You can write those comments there as well. So the most recent precipitation drop down, is it less than 12 hours ago, 12 to 48 hours ago, 2 to 7 days ago, 1 to 2 weeks ago, or more than 2 weeks ago? So that's the information that we're looking for here. Not what type of precipitation is it, but when did this precipitation occur? And then again, that Quantab unit reading and the chloride reading, like we went over before, our example, this was 4 Quantab units and then 157 parts per million chloride is what we're submitting for here. And we did get a question in the Q&A, is it possible to receive high concentration test strips in the kit? We do not send out the high concentration test strips, but you can get that from the Hach website. I think it's www.hach.com. You can order those test strips there and get a whole bottle. Continuing again with creating that SaltWatch reading, again, the expiration date and the lot number are in the center of those conversion charts. Please pay attention to those, that information as you're testing. And then at the end, don't forget to click Save Changes to save your submission. You can also submit via an organization as well. So if you go up to the top of the screen and click Explore Data, it'll show up a screen that sort of looks like this, where you can search for sites or organizations. They're at the bottom. If you click on organizations, then you can search all of the organizations that are in the Clean Water Hub. So for this example, I am searching for the Loudoun Wildlife Conservancy. And it will bring me to their organization page. I can click to join that organization. That's the other way to join organizations. There'll be some information about the organization. And then if they give you the option, you can download all of the sites and readings that are associated with that organization too. And you can submit data directly onto some of the sites that might already exist here in the Clean Water Hub. So for this example, I've clicked on Broad Run and Heartland, and I can then create a new SaltWatch reading based on that. And for that, you don't have to fill out any of that sample site information because it's already there in that site. And same thing for if you're going to submit in the same site again, you can submit that information. You don't have to create a new site if it's the same sample site location before. When that drop-down menu comes up for create a site, that site that you've created previously will already occur. So once you've submitted data, we do have a number of advocacy resources on our webpage under what you can do. So we have a number of letters to the editor, letters to reps. We have a whole advocacy guide that has information about different applicator groups, such as for-hire applicators, for-hire contracted applicators, Department of Transportation, people who hire the for-hire contractors like HOAs or condo associations, and then also individual homeowners as well. And there's information about all of those groups in our advocacy guide. Again, that's on the What You Can Do page of our website, saltwatch.org. And then there's also good questions and things that you can ask those groups to find out what they're doing to reduce road salt pollution within your community. And we do have some information on best practices and everything there on our webpage as well. And without SaltWatch, a lot of these articles that you're seeing here on the screen wouldn't have been possible. And this is what we're hoping to see in the future too, is more cities trying to test different efforts to reduce road salt pollution within those cities, cutting back on road salt while maintaining safety, things like that, and just more awareness about the issue of road salt pollution. This is what we're looking to see in the future. And we had a number of articles come out last year, even though there was not very much road salt that was used across the country. So this is what we're really interested in, is trying to make a difference. And even little things like doing a little bit better at your own home, trying to reduce road salt pollution, talking to your neighbor, little actions like that make a really, really big difference. Even though we think, oh, if I get a news article published about me, that's a good advocacy action. A great advocacy action is just talking to your neighbor and letting them know about some things that they can do better. And just as a visual, because a lot of times we're used to seeing road salt pollution or just road salt applications sort of look like the photo here on the left. You should not be feeling that crunch underfoot. A little bit of salt goes a really, really long way. And I do have some more visuals here in a moment for you, but you should not be seeing the photo that we're seeing here on the left. We should be seeing more of the photo that we're seeing on the right. Being smart about our salting and more mindful about the practices that we're using. Shoveling early and often to clear those walkways before snow turns to ice. Great way to reduce the amount of salt that you have to apply. Scattering salt, a 12-ounce mug, your typical coffee mug, actually holds enough salt to salt a 20-foot long walkway or driveway, or about 10 sidewalk squares. That's about 2 parking spaces that you can use salt on. And then if you've maybe spilled a little bit too much salt, or a storm has passed, everything's sort of dried up and there's still salt on a sidewalk, you can actually sweep up that road salt, store it in an enclosed container, and use it during the next storm event as well. So little things like that make a really, really big difference. And I just wanted to share this. This is a project that we actually just completed, and we really can't wait to share all of the rest of the photos with you folks. But we did a Paint the Plow event here in Maryland, in Montgomery County, Maryland, where we had 11 snow plows distributed by the Montgomery County Department of Transportation to various school groups and partner organizations throughout the county to write smart salt messaging on those plows. And each plow that was received was in a nearby depot from that school or partner organization. And so we're hoping that if we do have a lot of snow this winter, then maybe we'll see some of these snow plows out servicing the roadways. And this is something that can actually be done in your own community as well. I know a number of states, they allow their Department of Transportations to deliver snowplow blades to local schools or organizations to do some sort of painting event. This is something that could be very easily incorporated into your programming. And we'll have more information about some of the supplies that we used and things that we learned from this project here in the future for you as well, if this is something that you would be interested in doing in your local community. It's a very fun project to do. So before we open the floor up more to questions, and I definitely flew through this webinar here today, what are some topics that you would like to see covered on future clean water webinars? So please type your some answers here in the chat. We'd love to know, and we'd love to tailor some of these future clean water webinars to things that you are looking to see. So let us know here in the chat what you're looking for. And with that, I'll open the floor up to any questions. There's a lot of information on our website, www.saltwatch.org. If you have any questions, maybe you'd like to request bulk kits for your organization, we're happy to send those your way. Please email me at saltwatch@iwla.org. Or if you have any other questions too, we'd love to help you out. So any questions, please write those in the Q&A or the chat, and then I'll bring back this page. What topics would you like to see covered on future clean water webinars? So any questions that you have, please ask us.
Abby, I messaged you a question that I said we'd answer live. It's in the question and answer panel too.
Perfect. When are salt levels the highest? We might have a snow in Minnesota and not get melting for weeks. So typically salt levels are the highest usually after those salting events in the wintertime. And a lot of times it might be right after a thaw. It's sometimes tricky to catch the actual peak of some of those spikes that we might be seeing during the winter times, but typically just because they come and go fairly quickly. But typically, if you are out after road salt has been applied, you're going to see some sort of spike. And so that's when those chloride levels in the waterways are the highest. Another really good question, what is the best way to store the test strips? So the test strips that you may have received from us, they're in a little baggie that has a desiccant strip or desiccant pack in them. Leave them in that desiccant pack. Basically, we don't want them exposed to any sort of moisture. If you have them in a bottle, leave them in the bottle. Ideally, house conditions are totally fine. They really shouldn't be stored at temperatures over about 80 degrees. So below that, and we haven't tried out what happens if they're stored sort of in frozen conditions, but I'd say sort of in normal house conditions, and then just make sure that they're not getting a lot of humidity. But do keep testing or keep looking at those expiration dates, because those expiration dates, they don't last forever, unfortunately. And if you do notice that your kit has expired, please feel free to email us or request a new kit at saltwatch.org. The email address for bulk kit requests, Sam just put that in the chat, saltwatch@iwla.org. A question sort of in general about water chemistry testing. Can free or low-cost test kits be obtained anywhere? You might check with your local like soil and water conservation district. A lot of times they might have some test strips. You can get them online. It depends on how accurate you're looking for some of those test strips. There's a lot of sort of for home water that you can get test kits for water samples for drinking water. And some of those can be kind of expensive. Some of those can be less expensive. It really depends on what you're looking to test and how many tests you're interested in getting. How many tests are in a bulk kit? So with the bulk kits, we send you individual SaltWatch kits, but we can send you multiple of those. So let us know how many you're looking for, and we'll do our best to provide you with how many you're interested in. So again, 4 test strips per SaltWatch kit. Okay. I'm gonna stop.